Tonight, a drop of hope. Rain helps out crews battling wildfires in the West. The expectations.
We're very hopeful the next few days there'll be major progress.
And evacuations.
I just hope I get to go home.
We will axe the tax, axing the facts.
The call for a summer break on federal gas taxes. Also, new details about the investigation into Canada's so-called crypto king.
The size of the alleged fraud was massive.
Plus, a teenage girl kidnapped, shoved into a crawl space by her own father.
People should not be used as weapons to get back at other people.
And remembering a veteran sportscaster.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to Sports Center. I'm Darren Detishin.
The life and career of Darren Detishin.
The place that I feel best is right here.
CTV National News with Omar Sachedina. Reporting tonight, Mirella Fernandez.
Good evening. It isn't often Canadians celebrate a rainy day, but in Western Canada, a downpour has been a gift to the firefight. A wildfire has already consumed some homes in northern British Columbia, but a dip in temperature and the rain has helped hold back the flames from doing even more damage. CTV's BC Bureau Chief Andrew Johnson starts our coverage tonight.
On a smoky day in northern BC, there is new hope for wildfire evacuees, receiving word of rain.
Lovely. Just lovely. It can pour down.
Confirmation comes from the mayor, who for a moment at least can finally crack a smile.
Yes, it is. It's raining. It's not raining hard, but it's been a steady rain, and you can see by the road behind me there's standing water.
Precipitation and cooler temperatures offer a much-needed boost for morale during a terrifying week. The 127 square kilometer Parker Lake fire is only 2 kilometers from Fort Nelson. It has already burned a handful of homes on the outskirts of town.
It hurts because these houses been there for a long time, and now when they don't have anything to go home to, it's killer.
On the front line, the break in the weather is helping firefighters, who the BC Wildfire Service is trying to make sure can stay fresh.
People are working long hours, but we do have pretty strict safety things in place to ensure that people are getting proper rest, proper nutrition. Close to 5,000 evacuees have been waiting on pins and needles for almost a week now, half staying here in Fort St. John, a city happy to help but whose population grew by 15% overnight. Hotels and restaurants are struggling to keep up.
We ordered extra, still we ran out, so we have to buy the stuffs locally.
What are you running out of?
So especially like the kitchen stuff, the veggies, the fries, the onion rings.
Fatigue being felt by all sides as the firefight and evacuation stretches on.
I just hope I get to go home. I miss my home.
There's still no word when the people of Fort Nelson could return home, and there is a second massive fire approaching town from the other direction. That's still 25 kilometers away, but could at some point spark a new evacuation. Andrew Johnson, CTV News, Fort St. John, BC.
And the BC wildfires have led to record-setting carbon emissions for the month of May. New data from a European monitoring agency shows wildfire emissions in BC are already at a 22-year high, only halfway through the month. Total emissions across the country are also quite high, on par with other big wildfire years like 2023 and 2019. Wet weather is helping the firefight in Alberta as well. The blaze near Fort McMurray has pushed thousands from their communities. CTV's Jeremy Thompson spent the day with the men and women working to protect their homes.
With an event like this going on, you see bulldozers bulldozing trees, taking the tree line away from the community. We did that after 2016, so that's already done. We're already in a good position right now, so you see it's defensible.
Powerful sprinklers can create a dome of humidity in a large area on a moment's notice. Elsewhere, crews have sprayed red fire retardant along the tree line as another line of defense. So far, crews have covered 4.5 kilometers with it. There are more than 170 firefighters in Fort McMurray to fight this fire right now, thanks to the Unified Incident Command structure. 22 helicopters plus water bomber airplanes are coordinating attacks out of the Fort McMurray airfield. Despite the rain throughout the day, their efforts are needed to contain a fire of this size that is burning hot and out of control.
Mother Nature, with her good graces, she will give us as much rain and we'll take every bit of it. And yes, large amounts of rain, more than what we've just received, large amounts of rain directly on the fire will definitely help speed that along.
A blaze of this size can burn for weeks, even months, before it can be declared officially extinguished, and they fully expect to be fighting this fire basically throughout the rest of the summer here. They're telling those who have been evacuated that they can expect to be out of their homes at least through the long weekend, with an earliest return date of Tuesday. Reporting from Fort McMurray, Jeremy Thompson, CTV News.
Over in Manitoba, a wildfire has forced nearly 700 people out of their homes. The Premier offering some reassuring words.
All the people who've been battling the blaze have been doing a great job. And we're hearing some encouraging signs that due to those efforts, combined with some improvements in the forecast, people might be able to go home soon.
The fire raging in the north has not moved closer to the community, but has grown in size. Ottawa is providing almost $20 million to help the province fight the wildfires. It's a $40 million fraud case that police laid out today in Ontario. Aiden Pleterski is accused of taking money from investors and spending it on a lavish lifestyle. Police aren't saying how many victims there are, but they do say the 25-year-old may have been looking for new investors just this past February. CTV's John Woodward has more on the man who calls himself the Crypto King.
A lot of lives have been devastated by this.
Investigators shedding light on an 18-month probe called Project Swan into complaints about the so-called Crypto King Aiden Pleterski.
It's alleged that Pleterski solicited funds from investors, promising massive profits and also guaranteeing no loss of the original money.
Profits Pleterski showed off in social media and live streaming videos. A life of luxury. The 25-year-old kid from the suburbs of Whitby, Ontario, amassing more than $40 million from investors before apparently losing much of it. He and his company, AP Private Equity, forced into bankruptcy by Ontario courts. Bankruptcy filings indicating only a small fraction can be found.
The size of the alleged fraud was massive and spanned across multiple jurisdictions.
Police not the only ones following the money. Pleterski was kidnapped and beaten, allegedly by jilted investors. The media received a video of what Pleterski said was a coerced statement.
I should have been honest with everybody when I told them I had lost a lot of money.
In 2023, a judge undid Pleterski's sale of a multi-million-dollar property to pro basketball player Shai Gilgeous-Alexander because the new owner was inundated with angry investors trying to break into the property.
Where's the money?
A lawyer for some investors says he's not convinced the money is gone, but it could be hard to find.
There's a lot of cash. There's a lot of crypto. And so those are two items that are very hard to trace.
One of the surprising things we learned from investigators today is that Aiden Pleterski may still be at it. Police saying they have evidence of him soliciting investments as recently as 3 months ago. An associate, Colin Murphy, also charged with fraud over $5,000, accused of feeding Pleterski clients.
There are other investigations. That's all I can say at this point in time.
Ontario's investment regulator says those investigations are criminal, not regulatory, as recent activity has brought new scrutiny to the Crypto King. John Woodward, CTV News.
After much scrutiny, Canada's largest grocer says it will sign off on a grocery code of conduct, but conditions apply. Loblaws says it will sign the agreement only if all competitors do too. Walmart is the holdout, saying it is reviewing the new draft. Initially, both retailers had opposed it, saying it would raise costs for consumers.
We'll actually have access to more choice, more stable prices as well.
The agreement aims to make business practices more transparent and offers a way for suppliers and retailers to settle disputes. The high price of gas may have some Canadians rethinking a long weekend road trip. Federal opposition leader Pierre Poilievre is calling for a summer break from federal gas taxes. But as CTV's Annie Berger-Oliver reports, the Prime Minister is steering clear.
Almost every long weekend, the price at the pump goes up. But this Victoria Day, the Conservative leader is pitching a summer tax break to buck that trend.
Give Canadians a fuel tax holiday of 35 cents a litre from Victoria Day all the way to Labor Day.
Conservatives say that 35 cent a litre savings would be achieved by scrapping the carbon tax, excise tax, and the GST on fuels. The Prime Minister isn't going to do that, though, saying his price on pollution fights climate change and gives Canadians hundreds of dollars in rebates every quarter.
That the Conservatives have made this a challenging conversation because they're busy axing the facts. The reality is, more money in families' pockets while we fight climate change is something that everyone needs to be getting behind.
Across Canada, gas prices are currently averaging about $1.63 per litre, about 10 cents higher than this time last year. Part of that increase, an April 1st carbon tax hike that raised gas prices by about 3.3 cents per litre.
If the federal government were to rescind temporarily, or even provinces were to rescind this carbon tax, it could amount in significant savings.
Though the carbon tax has contributed to higher prices, some economists say even if it were scrapped, gas stations would likely keep prices where they are.
They're profit maximizing companies that have shareholders that they have to answer to. And so the idea of how they make their money is based on what is the consumer willing to pay.
The cost of living is a top concern for many Canadians, and pollsters say this latest Conservative tactic is another way they're trying to win over those voters. Morella?
Thanks, Annie. It is amazing no one was hurt when a truck drove off an overpass in Halifax. The 18-wheeler lost control, crashed through the guardrail, landing on the highway below. A school bus with kids on board stopped short of hitting the truck. Ottawa has imposed its first ever sanctions on what it calls extremist Israeli settlers in the West Bank. The Foreign Affairs Minister says the increasing settler violence against Palestinians in the territory is deeply troubling. Canada is sanctioning 4 people following similar action by the U.S. and U.K. There will be consequences for a Quebec father who has admitted to kidnapping his own daughter. It's a bizarre story revealed in court documents today. The teen was forced into a closet crawl space by her father and stayed hidden there as police searched for her. CTV Jean-Pierre Beauchemin tonight with details.
These images of a dusty, dark and cold crawl space tell of a horror story revealed in court documents. A man pleaded guilty in the 2021 kidnapping of his 15-year-old biological daughter and to public mischief.
He planned everything. He knew exactly where to hid her.
The girl is on the autism spectrum, and her mother says she has the mental age of an 8-year-old. She was staying in a group home and secretly reached out to her estranged father over social media, telling him she no longer wanted to be there. The man, long stripped of his parental rights, took her to a relative's house, where she was hidden in that crawl space under a trapdoor in a bedroom closet. 2 hours later, she was let out after she said she was running out of air. The relatives dyed her brown hair red, and they also openly discussed asking for a potential ransom of $75,000. Police put out a missing person report to media. Her mother was desperate to find her daughter.
My panic came, honestly, in a sense of feeling numb. I was hyper-focused on finding her.
The father lied to police, even texting his daughter's Facebook account to throw off investigators. In one fake message, he wrote, "If you read this, come home. Everyone is worried. Call me. We will talk. We love you." The girl was moved to yet another house where a relative saw a CTV news story about the missing 15-year-old and called police. This put an end to a 36-hour ordeal. Sentencing arguments were to be heard this week but have been postponed to the fall.
People are not possessions. People should not be used as weapons to get back at other people, especially children.
A psychologist report said the father expressed sincere regret. The Crown is hoping the judge will impose a 3-year prison sentence, while the defense is hoping for house arrest. Morella.
Okay, Jen, quite a story. Coming up, the latest from the Trump trial.
What a scam this whole thing is.
The dramatic cross-examination of his former fixer. Plus, remembering TSN's Darren Detition. A testy day in court for the prosecution's star witness at Donald Trump's hush money trial. Trump's legal team went on the attack, trying to shred Michael Cohen's credibility. CTV's Washington bureau chief Joy Melvin reports.
Michael Cohen was grilled relentlessly about his history of lying before Congress, judges, under oath, even to his own wife. Peppered with questions about past criminal convictions and his motives, accused of being bitter and angry at denied a role in the White House, the defense played audio clips from Cohen's podcast, who said he was giddy at the thought of Trump behind bars.
But revenge is a dish best served cold. And you better believe I want this man to go down and rot inside for what he did to me and my family.
Trump's lawyer Todd Blanche pinning Cohen down about a 96-second phone call to Trump's bodyguard Keith Schiller in October 2016. Cohen claims he spoke to Trump about the Stormy Daniels payoff. That was a lie. Admit it, Todd Blanche said. You didn't talk to Trump that night. Cohen replied he believed he did. Raising his voice, Blanche said, "We're not asking for your belief. This jury does not want to hear what you think happened." Branding Cohen a liar, raising serious doubts about Cohen's testimony. He's the only person to link Trump to payments to kill Stormy Daniels' story ahead of the 2016 election and the falsification of business records to cover it up.
Do you plan to testify?
Trump denies it all. After 4 weeks sitting in court, the former president seemed worn out.
I think it was a very interesting day. It was a fascinating day. And it shows what a scam this whole thing is.
An entourage of Trump loyalists at court backing him up.
You know, if I started a story with a convicted felon and a hooker walk into a bar, you would immediately know that it's a joke. Well, that's what we have here, a joke of a trial.
Court will not be in session tomorrow so Trump can attend his son's graduation. There's no word on if Trump will take the stand, but the judge said to be ready for closing arguments on Tuesday. Marella?
Thank you, Joy. Straight ahead, turned down for a transplant.
She doesn't get a liver transplant within the next month, she's not going to live.
One man's quest to save the life of a loved one. There is a 36-year-old woman fighting for her life tonight in Toronto. Her liver has failed, likely because of heavy drinking. It is also why she's being denied a transplant. CTV's Avis Favreau reports.
In this ICU bed is 36-year-old Amanda Huska, in hospital since March after developing rapid and severe liver failure linked to heavy alcohol use. Doctors referred her for a liver transplant to save her life, with her partner Nathan a potential living donor.
This was a wake-up call for her. She wanted to make every advantage and every opportunity to make sure that she could get this transplant done and turn her life around.
But the country's largest transplant team at University Health Network declined on the basis in part of minimal abstinence outside of hospital, noting she'd tried to quit and failed despite prior advice to stop drinking.
We were told last week that she has a couple of weeks left to live. If she doesn't get a liver transplant within the next month, she's not going to live.
Studies show that transplants for alcohol liver failure have a 94% survival rate at 1 year, though about 10% return to drinking. So data is showing that about 86% of those with alcohol liver failure are rejected after undergoing medical and psychological testing, even if they have a living donor. Mark Selkirk died after being refused a liver transplant because of his alcohol use. His widow says the rules are too strict.
People aren't turned away because they didn't exercise or because they work too much or they don't get enough sleep or they didn't follow doctor's orders. So in Nathan and Amanda's case, you're seeing someone being told you didn't follow doctor's orders, so we're not going to help you. We're going to let you die.
Liver failure used to be seen mostly in older men who drank over a lifetime, but doctors warn they are seeing much more liver disease in younger adults and women like Amanda.
So now it means that there are more individuals
trying to get access to transplant with no expansion in the number of livers available for these people. We are seeing many more young people dying of alcohol-associated liver disease now than we were a decade ago.
Asked to comment on Amanda's rejection, transplant officials wrote, "We are unable to comment on specific cases due to patient privacy."
I will do whatever I can to save her life, just like the medical profession should be doing here.
Nathan says he's found a hospital in Europe ready to perform a living liver transplant if he can buy Amanda enough time to get a second chance at life. Avis Favreau, CTV News, Toronto.
After the break, a sports broadcasting giant gone too soon. A look back at the life of TSN's Darren Detition. It's hard to put into words what it was like to be around Darren Detition. He was a big guy, built, you would say, with a booming voice and a smile that never seemed to disappear from his face. If you tuned in to watch the TSN broadcaster, you felt his love of sports. Dutchie passed away after a battle with prostate cancer. CTV's Paul Hollingsworth has his story.
It is my pleasure to announce the most outstanding player.
Darren Detition was sports passion personified.
But it's a must-win game, Steve.
A walking encyclopedia of sports knowledge, Dutchie used TSN highlights to help crank up the volume in all of our lives.
Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the Sports Center Newsroom. I'm Darren Detition.
More than just a TV personality, Dutchie was a national treasure. He engaged with fans and viewers everywhere.
I think that he was relatable.
Possessed by natural buoyancy, he made everyone around him feel special in his presence.
His personality was massive. The biggest one, I think, of anyone in the history of TSN.
Raised in Porcupine Plain, Saskatchewan, Dutchie was a well-known broadcaster in Western Canada before his TSN days. When he arrived at TSN, he wore success with grace. He never forgot who he was and where he came from.
He loved Saskatchewan so much. He loved the people of Saskatchewan. He loved the Rough Riders.
Youthful, energetic, he was up for anything.
And his partner on the beat, Darren Detition. Together, they are Brodsky and Dutch.
You know, some of the most fun I think I've ever had in this business, doing a promo for the show called Sports Desk back then.
Diagnosed with prostate cancer in 2021, Dutchie stepped away from the TV studio for treatment. His real-life TSN turning point came when he returned to SportsCenter following a 12-month absence.
He was an absolute gift because he chose to come back and host SportsCenter for a year.
Still battling cancer, it was a showcase of character and bravery.
When you wake up in the morning, you need a purpose. And to just kind of lie around, especially in being so young, with still so much to give, I think it just made his day just a little bit better.
He was able to return to the job he loved so much.
And I feel really, really good. And the place that I feel best is right here.
And we are all better to have known him and watched him. Darren Detition was 57. Paul Hollingsworth, CTV News.
We know you will miss him. We miss him very much. Thanks for sharing your time with us. I'll see you again tomorrow. Good night.